McBling is a mid-2000s aesthetic characterized by opulent and often tacky displays of wealth, celebrity culture, fake tans, and bleached blonde hair. According to Vogue magazine, it emerged in 2003 following the American invasion of Iraq and ended with the onset of the Great Recession in 2008. Unlike previous aesthetics discussed thus far in Silent Generation, McBling was not an internet-born aesthetic created by a small group of digital artists. Instead, it arose organically in popular culture and was only later identified as an aesthetic by the Consumer Aesthetic Research Institute, and this is the first Silent Generation episode to talk about their organization.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative of their work. I think they've done the hard work of finding all these images and stuff. But not every, I think, aesthetic is primed for a good episode of Silent Generation, but this one touches on everything. It's a little bit urbanist. It's very fashion oriented, and there's also music to go along with it.
Yeah, and it happens to be sort of peaking, which we'll get into towards the later half. But I thought, we were going to do this episode, talk about how the aesthetic was identified and then the name was coined, but it's actually living a whole new life right now, which will be fun to talk about.
Yeah.
But before we get into McBling a bit more, I want to bring up that we're going to be increasing the Patreon prices. So we've been pretty cheap, just $2 for the basic tier. We're going to increase that to $4, but we're going to give listeners who are not Patreon subscribers the chance to upgrade it before we do it. We're going to do it before we release episode 51. That's our next private episode. So you'll have about a week or two to subscribe if you want to lock in that low price.
So into McBling.
So where did the term McBling come from? So the term actually predates the beginning of the Consumer Aesthetics Research Institute, which we'll just call CARI from here on out because that's a really big mouthful. But CARI loosely began in December of 2014 after Evan Collins created the Y2K aesthetic Facebook group. And the aesthetic that was identifying is specifically Y2K futurism. That one we may do an episode on in the future because I feel like it's pretty iconic, but I also feel like it was too popular recently. It's this one is a bit more interesting to discuss because people don't know as much about it.
Yeah, and it also I don't know, it exists so much more in the real world than just early 2000s futurist renderings and Backstreet Boys cover art and stuff.
So that Facebook group, it was founded Y2K aesthetic, and then Evan Collins created Post Y2K as another Facebook group, sort of as a joke, which is interesting. I'm actually going to post a screenshot in the show notes to a post Evan Collins made where he said that he created it as a joke initially. But originally, this Facebook page, it was just sharing anything and everything from the mid-2000s that was aesthetically interesting. So it wasn't just McBling, there were posts on there that you could say are Fruitage or Arrow or Twee or Tuscan Rustic, all of these other aesthetics that CARI later went on to identify.
It's such a serious name for the group. I love it. Consumer Aesthetics Research Institute, when it is just people in Facebook groups. And then eventually, I imagine this transition to the aesthetics wiki. Is that maintained by people from CARI? What's the connection there? Do you know that?
No, there's actually a main CARI site, which we'll also link in the show notes to their McBling
I picked
page.
through that before,
But the people behind CARI, Evan Collins, Froyo Tam, those people, they have their tentacles all over the internet.
Again, it's just so funny to have this serious name, and then Froyo Tan, of course, noted contributor et al.
So where did the term McBling come from, though? So back in the day, I was a member of the Post Y2K Facebook group, and I was not a participant. I was just observing from the shadows later to do an episode today, this week on the topic. But, they actually did a poll. So they crowdsourced the name McBling. And that was the one that won out. I would have loved to have been able to take a screenshot and share that and talk about the other names that weren't picked, but I couldn't find that. I found a different one, a follow-up poll for what they were thinking could be the name for what came after McBling, so 2008 to 2012. Couldn't find the other post, but...
Wait, what is the name for that?
I think that poll... Let me open it so I can tell you.
Yeah, because in researching this, I'd find something and I'm that's a little bit too far. That's in the next chunk of time.
Yeah, stuff from 2011. For example, Jersey Shore, because that is the same ethos. It's very trashy, but it came later. Yeah. Okay, but that poll, they came up with subprime mortgage aesthetic.
A post-crash kind of
Yeah. But yeah, when McBling was coined, I actually didn't like the term that much. I still continued to call it post Y2K for a while. And I think it was just because the Mc part, it made me think of McDonald's.
Yeah.
But actually, it was in reference to McMansions.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like stealing a Mick from something, and already the Mick in McMansions is a little bit incorrect, I think. So to those who don't know what McMansions are, these are the gaudy upper middle class homes made very cheaply in suburbia. They are to an extent copy paste, but
Yeah.
also depending on the level of involvement from the homeowner, they can be semi customized basically, where they're kind of thought from the inside out. You can choose from this set of floor plans, like, oh yeah, I want my nice lawyer foyer here, which is a just exceedingly tall foyer, and then I want to have my wine room. This made me think of the bit from when they resurrected Arrested Development, and they have a scene where Tobias and his wife are buying a house like during the crisis, basically, and they keep on getting upsold on all the different amenities you can add to your home, or want in your home.
Yeah, it's interesting too because the suburban lifestyle, I think the external life outside of the home, it starts to suck. Like you have bad community ties, you don't have third places.
Yeah.
But what's really sold and bought, a lot of people buy into this, is the domestic sphere.
Yeah.
So designing those homes from the inside out is very appropriate.
You just have a room for everything. I've even seen on plans nowadays, they'll say like pet room, like a whole room for your dogs.
Yeah.
And, or a man cave, like actually being listed on the floor plan, like as a type of room. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a she shed on there, but that's
Have you ever heard about the Freakonomics thing that happened where like piano makers wanted to sell more pianos, so they started to have celebrity what was that show? Also around the McBling era.
Cribs.
Yeah, Cribs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they would have like people like celebrities on Cribs being like, "This is my music room." So then rich people who weren't celebrities were like, "Oh, I also need a music room, but what do I put in it? A piano."
Yeah. You have to create the need. That's I don't know. Like that's so growth oriented of like Steinway and stuff. I think they're just sitting pretty good. Like it's got to be a good business. Like there's always gonna be rich people who need nice pianos.
Yeah. Did you ever watch Cribs?
No.
I did not either.
Not even like out of morbid curiosity. Morbid curiosity, I did watch some like Pimp My Ride and stuff. But something about Cribs was just like, no, this is doing nothing for me.
Yeah, I've never.
And isn't there like stuff that's come out afterwards? Like one of them like didn't own the house or something. There's just like, a lot of like posturing and stuff.
Yeah. I can see that.
So the Mick from McBling like comes from that kind of, because the Mick anything is used when something is super cheap, unhealthy, copy paste, mass produced. I'd also say like internationalist, and also like that American hegemony kind of internationalist as well. I mean, the French always use Mick on stuff to denigrate it, saying like, oh, this is like America overexerting itself in our culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think the name is pretty apt. I've grown to like it a lot, especially just because I think the later names for aesthetics, they just all got core in the end and got boring.
Yeah.
This one is relatively unique, you know?
Yeah, like it's succinct. It's good.
So next we can break down the primary elements of the McBling aesthetic. And for this, we did look at the McBling aesthetics wiki page a little bit, but we also have our own Pinterest board, which we should have brought up earlier. But yeah, it's our first one in a while because it's been a minute since our fashion episode. I'm pretty proud of this one though.
Yeah, no, this one has it all. Yeah, all the like all the girls have been added by Nathan, I would say. And then I've added a lot of the cars, and I'm trying to find more. It's really hard on Pinterest to find dated home decor stuff.
Yeah.
I've had to search like before and afters to try and just get the before part. Because like as we'll get into like home design trends like honey oak and stuff, like no one's posting a really good example of honey oak cabinets nowadays. And if they are, it's like not recognizable to the 2005 ethos I'm looking for.
Yeah. I mean, there were plenty enough images of Paris Hilton that we could find on Pinterest.
Oh my God, that woman was photographed.
Yeah. But yeah, we can get to that later. So we're going to talk about like the sort of core elements of the aesthetic. And I think it's important to point out that this aesthetic was much more organic than the metallic vibes of Y2K futurism. Like with this one, they started to lean into things like denim and animal prints. Like on our Pinterest board, there's this really interesting image of Britney Spears from earlier in her career where she's wearing like a pink top and denim jeans, but over on top of it, there's this like, she's wearing like silver metallic. I can only describe it as being like a pop star costume, but it's basically like Y2K Futurism on top and McBling underneath. And I know about that from the McBling Facebook page, but it's
Just
a
crossing the
really
worlds.
apt image that can show the transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, things started to get more worldly. I like to I like that word. But let's start out by talking about staple brands. So the first one is Pink.
Yeah. So this was like a sub brand or a sub line of Victoria's Secret. And its logo was in that big like collegiate font in pink most often. I've seen the stores are still around nowadays, and they've toned down the pink part, so the logo isn't even pink anymore, but it's still the same font. It's been flattened just like every other logo out there, because they used to have the kind of like embossed kind of thing, right? Like in a real collegiate sweater, you have the white border around it, and then you have like the pink color on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bold lettering was supposed to draw even more attention to the girls' butts.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm sure everyone's already seen this, but, you know, the leggings will have pink on the back, and the bold font brings even more attention.
Yeah. Juicy. Juicy Couture. Like that was also butt printed pants.
Yeah.
Bebby. BB. I just remember this Israeli mom wearing BB sweatpants at my synagogue and picking her kids up. I'm just like, I'm so grateful my mom works at Pottery Barn and dresses respectfully.
Yeah. So Pink, I associate this brand with the type of girl who would wear a full face of makeup to school and then would walk the mile in gym class instead of run it.
Those girls are the natural friend of the gay man in gym class, correct?
I know, but I'm a deadbeat gay best friend. I've never actually like girls who want me to be their bestie have always been a little bit disappointed.
I'm trying to think what pop star gay man pairing was posted recently, like with the headline, like, you know, they walked the hell out of that mile in gym class. I don't know. I was a bit of a mile walker, I gotta say. I've developed since then.
I remember running, but I've never liked cardio very much, even to this day. I mostly just do resistance training.
I think it's like everyone in my family is very good at cardio stuff. I just never picked up the bug. Oh yeah, but the color pink in general, specifically that bubblegum pink, is like, if you look at the Pinterest board, you'll just be inured by it, I guess. Yeah. Like it's everywhere. It's just so pink. There's also a lime green as well. Would you say it's
like
lime?
the iPod Nano green?
Yeah, but I don't know.
That came later, actually.
Yeah, that I get, like, because I picture that in like anodized aluminum, like I see that as a different thing. But no, like a pink, and then like this just sickening green apple green.
Yeah. And I think another color that gets a little bit forgotten in this aesthetic is brown, or more beige or tan. Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, mostly when this aesthetic gets reinterpreted by living Gen Z young girls and women, they tend to lean into the pink a little hard, but it is a much broader color scheme because it's easy to get sick of this color in the McBling aesthetic. It's sort of like with Health Goth, with black and white and the Nike logo.
It's like, oh, the Nike logo is upside down this time. Wow. What is it? Feeling adventurous today, are we?
Yeah.
That thing.
And I think this particular shade of pink, there's no like polite way to say this. It just has the vibe of like selling sex. Like it's like a very like pornographic shade of pink.
No, it's like the Playboy bunny. It's just like, like raw, unfiltered femininity, and not in a girl boss way. Like in a real old school, like practiced femininity way.
Yeah. And something to bring up on that too is like, I feel like the reason why this aesthetic is so feminine is because at this time, sort of the only people in society that were able to dress in an interesting and experimental way were like 10 out of 10 conventionally attractive women. Because for the majority of people at this time, they were really interested just in fitting in.
Yeah.
They wanted to look normal because this was the peak of everyone getting called gay.
Yes. It truly was. I don't know. I just think that not enough people like thought about gay people in the 80s and 90s, even with the AIDS crisis and everything. Like, but it's just felt like in the 2000s. Yeah. Why does it feel? Is there evidence for this that it was especially, I'm not even homophobic in like a meaningful way, like acts of violence, but homophobic in a vibe way.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of songs from the 80s or 90s where they're like, that's so gay. But then I can think about like rap from the mid 2000s with Lil Wayne, where he literally starts out a song where he's like, no homo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, that's something that for like younger listeners is probably more difficult to convey. But like a lot of that stuff got scrubbed from the internet. Like if you
Hmm.
try to look for mid 2000s, like slightly homophobic stuff on YouTube, it all got taken down. But there used to be a lot of it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
And then yeah, Pink and the other like adjacent mall brands are very much like under the umbrella of logo prep as well. Like if you think of all the different mall brands at this time, the ones that hewed closely to like actual prep and trad stuff would be like Polo Ralph Lauren, where you can go in there and buy a camel hair polo coat. And then the
Yeah.
furthest removed from that is Pink, where it's just like, look, we have the college font. Anyway, here's your velour booty shorts. Like, yeah, it's the furthest removed from it. I guess Abercrombie would be in the middle because it's like, look, we have a polo shirt. Our logo takes up half of it, but we have a polo shirt, just like in traditional prep style.
Yeah. Logo prep, we mentioned it on the mid 2000s prep episode. That came a bit later though. That
Mhm.
was more like, I would say 2009 to 2013. I don't remember what we said
Yeah.
exactly, but this came a bit
Mhm.
earlier. And I would say that McBling, you know, it was definitely like there was more pink. It was also like a bit more luxury.
Mhm.
And then logo prep, it was also like preppy, but it was a bit more like upper middle class, you know.
Yeah.
It had a
Uh-huh.
different consumer base.
As you said in the episode, like buying stuff with gaudy logos was a way to show that your family didn't lose their house in the recession. So it is
Yeah.
kind of a post-recession aesthetic.
Yeah. But both are relatively like maximalist. That's another important
Mhm.
word to put onto McBling. It's like, but I think, logo prep was maximal with the logos. McBling was just maximal with everything, from like
Mhm.
the prints to the patterns to the sequins and the rhinestones. But okay, the next brand we can sort of talk about is Von Dutch. So Von Dutch was an American fashion brand founded in 1999 that became popular in the McBling era after celebrities like Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, and Paris Hilton started wearing it. But I think that Gen Z's interpretation of McBling is missing the mark a little bit because they are really interested in Von Dutch, I think in part because working class clothing and working class fashion brands have been so popular. So
Mhm.
for like a Gen Z person wearing Von Dutch, they're kind of killing two birds with one stone because
Yeah.
they can both look McBling and have this like NYC working class look at the same time.
Yeah, they can do like, oh, this is like Carhartt but sexier, and like nostalgic for a specific
more girly.
area. Yeah, girl Carhartt. um, yeah, the actual guy who founded Von Dutch, this Kenny Howard guy, wild kind of like epithets follow his name. He's like a knife maker, graphic designer, all this stuff, noted neo-Nazi, all that stuff.
Yeah, we can link an article in the show notes about the anti-Semitic history of Von Dutch.
Yeah.
But
He's just a broadly antisocial guy, basically, is how I would describe it. Kenny Howard.
yeah.
Yeah.
And one more example of how like Gen Z, I think, loves Von Dutch a little too much is just the song Von Dutch by Charlie XCX.
Yeah.
But, I bet it's like past its peak at this point.
Yeah, this is also a sub aesthetic of this is the bro ho look, which I kind of hate saying.
You don't like the word hoe?
I don't like saying it.
That's one of the few like pseudo swear words I can say.
Yeah, that counts. But yeah, it's like a lot of pink, but with skulls, angel wings, like trucker hats. But as you said, like this is mixed on like very conventional femininity. Like you'd wear all this kind of like alt stuff, but you would be a skinny bleach blonde. And I was going to say this when we were talking about pink, but this was a very schizophrenic period in terms of female beauty standards.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that we were like in between the changing of the guard from like like butts shouldn't be big to butts have to be big kind of thing. And so I don't know. It was very much, I'm picturing like, yeah, we mentioned Playboy earlier, but what was the show that followed like the Playboy bunnies? That one.
It wasn't the one with Tila Tequila, was it?
No, that was Tila Tequila, A Shot at Love.
Oh, okay.
That was the bisexual dating show. But yeah, like, so there was this hyper femininity, and I don't know, let's just say fake boobs were like a driving factor in all of this in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
I think they really figured out the technology by that point. But,
Yeah, I didn't know when you wrote that in the docket if you were referring to how in the mid 2000s, like there were sort of to a degree, two standards of beauty, one being really thin, but the other being like being fat with a PH.
Yeah.
Like for, being a video girl for rap music videos.
Yeah, before we had thick with 2 C's and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of fat with a PH, we can talk about baby fat. So this is the third and final brand that was really big in McBling that we want to talk about. So this one I actually saw the most growing up in Chicago because it was really popular in Black and Latino communities. It was marketed as more of like an urban streetwear brand. So I would see people wearing it like all the time. And when I picture baby fat in my mind, I see like a really like cool looking woman wearing the like baby fat jacket where it has the logo with the cat on the back. I saw that like every day growing up, I feel like.
Yeah, I have a hard time picturing what Chicago looks like in this period in terms of like people and the interiors of homes and stuff. Like I picture this in such a suburban sense, and especially like a Sunbelt sense for myself. And so it's interesting because like the built environment is so much older in Chicago. Like I think it would make this stuff stand out a lot more. People wearing these kind of like garish, zany outfits against like this humble, respectable brick like 2-story building. It's just very strange to me because it makes sense when it's against like a stucco house that is less than 2 years old. Like it's just all of this is new, all of this is being built as we go. There is no legacy, there is no past.
I mean, when I think about fashion during this time period, like yes, there were people who managed to look very maximalist and have a McBling aesthetic, but overall the way people dressed was very simple. Again, they were trying to blend in. And then as I think we mentioned on the mid-2000s prep episode, black and white were the dominant colors at the time, in part because of the recession. When the nation's facing an economic crisis, clothing retailers, they tend to make more conservative decisions about what colors they make their clothing in. And so black and white and red, just really basic colors. You didn't really see yellow ever, I feel like.
Yeah, with all these like, pop culture celebrity aesthetics, there is that question of like, okay, how much did this trickle down to the average person? And like, to be clear, we're not saying the average person was dressed in full pink like Cameron in that one photo of him with the phone too. No, but it like by the time it did get to everyday people, it's like what you're picturing with the baby fat, like the woman like wearing that big prominent logo on the back of the hood.
Because I think, again, it was really, at this time, it was really only like largely very attractive women that were dressing interesting. Like the way guys dressed in my childhood, it was largely just white tees with baggy pants. But that's a little bit later. I can't remember, say like 2005 as clearly as 2010. So I'm a bit biased, I think. But it was overall pretty simple.
I mean, the turn of the century really was like the hyper casualization of everything. We're just cargo shorts, t-shirts were the thing, but now those t-shirts would be like an Ed Hardy t-shirt and stuff. So we can hop into, actually, if you want to hop over to like the menswear stuff before we talk about flip phones.
We can do that. We can talk about like men's McBling before we get into the other McBling staples.
So the brands that we just listed there are like mostly we're all women's wear brands, but for guys, I think that well, yes, men were more able to wear pink nowadays in this period. I think that it presented differently for men around this period. And so the brands that I would kind of like to talk about here is like Ed Hardy, DC, and Tap Out. So this, again, we're touching on other sub-aesthetics. This gets called older brother core sometimes as well, which is like vaguely like trading in gothic imagery, borrowing stuff from the skateboarding world, borrowing stuff from the custom car world, and from the newly ascendant world of like combat sports like MMA. And so it's kind of taking all those hyper masculine things and tossing them together with a kind of like macabre dark outlook.
I had an older brother at this time, and he did kind of fit into older brother core because he was a skateboarder. He was also a graffiti artist, and I mean, he just had the sort of energy of an older brother.
Just like a little angry, a little brooding. We get into fights when I was like a very young kid. Thankfully that stopped. No, my cousin is like a little over a year older than me, and he had an Xbox where I only had a Wii, basically. And so he had all the like not inappropriate, but the violent games. So we'd go over there and we'd play Call of Duty and we'd listen to System of a Down. And that was my like older brother core moment, I would say. But and so there's a crossover here with Von Dutch, because Christian Audiger, this French designer, he was the one who took all the like Von Dutch like creative imagery and worked it into clothing. And he did the same stuff with Ed Hardy. So Ed Hardy just like the guy behind Von Dutch, is a real person, much older than all of this. I think Ed Hardy himself is like 90 something years old and dying of Alzheimer's right now. But yeah, he was like a celebrated tattoo artist. His work brought together historical Japanese tattooing with like American traditional or Navy style tattoos. And so instead of getting a tattoo like that or in that style, you could just put it on a shirt and wear it and get the same, similar effect. They really were powerful. I just remember so many middle-aged men wearing them as kind of like I've still got it. Like I still have testosterone. Yeah, it was just a way to seem kind of like tough. But I don't know. I think it was kind of like maybe PMC type dads who wouldn't get a tattoo actually could then wear the shirt and kind of fantasize.
I don't remember really seeing many people wear it. Like, yes, it reads as being of this aesthetic and of this time, but like,
oh my God, in Las Vegas, it was the standard shirt, 100%.
Really?
In Phoenix too. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I can picture it.
I guess it was, maybe it was a bit regional then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then so other stuff, DC. This was a shoe company of like skating shoes.
My brother wore that all the time.
Yeah. Very fat shoes with big laces. And I used to like, you wouldn't, I just picture them falling off of guys. Like, I feel like they were never actually tied. You wouldn't tie them properly. You do them in this kind of like loose tongue kind of way. But yeah, that was founded by skaters in Carlsbad, California. One of the founders, Ken Block, pivoted from skating and stuff to motorsports and drifting. A few skateboarding guys like did that. Like, you can injure yourself out of, skateboarding pretty easily. And then you're still fully able to drive cars and stuff. But he died last year in a snowmobile accident, which is kind of, it's not one of the like vehicles he was known for. I guess it's
so
probably a motorsport. I would say so, yeah. But it just feels so inappropriate to like be driving crazy cars your whole life and then die in a snowmobile accident. It's like Steve Irwin wrestling, Crocs his whole life and then getting killed by a stingray, being one of 2 people ever.
Was it really only 2?
That's something crazy low, yeah. I was talking about coyotes recently because I saw one in Old Town, and only one person in modern history has been killed by a coyote.
And I think she was like a folk singer who had got killed by 3 at the same time or something.
She was like lost, starving, and then like a whole pack of them got her. But yeah, so don't be afraid of coyotes.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Tap Out. So this I saw a lot of. So I think these like could all exist together because it would be DC shoes, Tap Out shirt, and then I guess Ed Hardy shirt, DC hat. I don't know. These could all be swapped out.
Dutch hat.
Huh?
Or Von Dutch hat.
Yeah, Von Dutch hat. They're the trucker hat. Yeah, but these could all be kind of done interchangeably. And I think the other thing that would go with this would be like a soul patch as well.
I hate soul patches.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I'm a really big fan of mustaches, but then, some guys are very adverse to facial hair because it's so opinionated. And sometimes when like a facial hairstyle gets out of style, people get grossed out by it. Mm-hmm. And so like for some people where I'm like, oh, you'd look good with a mustache. They're like, no, I can't risk it. And then I'm like, what do you mean? But then I think about like the ones I don't like goatees or soul patches. And then I shudder and I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe they have a point.
Yeah, no, the soul patch was definitely having its moment during this. Chin strap facial hair as well.
Gosh.
Yeah. I'm picturing my sister's like first ex-boyfriend, I would say, was this guy who was always kitted out in like a flat brim hat of DC or something. Always like black graphic kind of stuff.
Oh, did he wear Cookie Monster shirts?
No, he was not. No, the women wear the Cookie Monster shorts in this. They are arm in arm with the DC hat fat shoes guy.
Okay.
I've like been trying to hearing older brother core was such a thing for this, but I don't really picture them being that age. Like I picture the brands I just talked about.
You never heard about older brother core before this week?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, it comes up in my TikTok, in my TikTok feed. I'm gonna put one in the show notes, but it's such a vibe. It makes me nostalgic from it. It makes me like be like, oh, I wish my brother was still like more lanky and like
I'm picturing like a carpeted floor, like a wood bookshelf full of original Xbox games. That's what I'm picturing. And that green of the original Xbox.
Yeah.
And the green of Monster Energy as well. But that I think is also a later in time kind of thing.
Well, you know what my brother's room looked like? So my dad was very lax. And so he was allowed to do graffiti on the walls of his room.
Wow. Yeah, that's the thing about having semi-artistic parents. Like, they'll let you paint on the walls.
Yeah.
That just sounds bad airflow wise.
Oh,
spray
I'm sure.
painting indoors. Yeah, hope you cracked a window. But yeah, and then so here's I'll try and not sound like the most annoying person in the world and the biggest square, but yeah, like this type of male dressing I think was pretty unprecedented in terms of middle class people wearing what I would call such like violence oriented clothing. Like
Yeah.
DC less so, that's about skateboarding and stuff, but tap out, MMA gaining in popularity, eclipsing boxing. I've just always been very anti
Yeah.
MMA. Even though I respect that, like, I think it's better for the fighters. They have less CTE. They have, like, I think they're compensated better than in the old boxing world. And I mean, like, the boxing promoting world was insane. Like, literally, people were shooting each other and stuff. Like, it was bad. Like, not to wax poetic about it, but I think it's just done such a number on, like, I don't know. I think there could have been a more positive vision of masculinity at the turn of the century, and instead we got like this stuff, which then paved the way for like leading up to seeing a heavily tattooed, crazy dyed hair MMA fighter bleeding and like I don't know. I watched the Tyson Paul fight, and one of the openers was like this Indian boxer and then this boxer from Brazil. And the boxer from Brazil just looked insane. He just had like he looked like a customized GTA character in terms of how many like zany tattoos he had that didn't match at all. He had like his chest was a lion's face, but half of it was in one style and half of it was in the other. Like it just had the craziest thing going on there. And then when the Indian guy was beating him pretty well, like at some point the Brazilian guy got spun around and the Indian guy like simulated humping him after beating him and punching. I'm like, this is so depraved. Like this is so low that like the most watched event right now is a guy like simulating assault. Like after he's been literally fighting someone, he's like, no, that's not enough. I need to simulate sexually assaulting him as well too. But yeah, I think this was all paved like the origins of what happened in that fight like started here with just everyday people wearing clothes that advertise that I can beat up and punch you and kick you.
Well, yeah, I think people wanted to go a step further than not just looking gay. They wanted to look like they'd beat up gay guys.
Yeah, basically dressed homophobically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just like skulls, graphic crosses. That's a lot of like tap out stuff had that. Like, I just can't think of a period where like a gainfully employed American male in the 70s and 80s would be wearing skulls, a symbol of death. And so like
I have an aversion to them. I've never liked skulls.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I liked them when I was like a moody teenager, but now I like actively don't.
And
like,
it's too satanic. I can't.
Yeah, I like a charming old school like 1890s engravings of skulls, like of skeletons and stuff. I don't know why I'm very drawn to those, but no, not in the modern sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what an alternate vision of Y2K masculinity would be. I guess nothing really came until the hashtag menswear of the early 2010s, which was guys wearing really tight suits and not wearing socks with loafers and stuff.
Well, the alternative is the sort of like very clean cut, like queer eye for the straight guy type of man from the mid 2000s, where they're they're very clean shaven.
Ryan Seacrest coded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I can't really, I'm so bad with celebrities. Who's Ryan Seacrest again?
He was the presenter for American Idol. Yeah, so he's just like exceedingly manicured.
I mean, I'm thinking of Tom Cruise.
It is not Tom Cruise.
Well, I'm not, but like, in terms of this, like,
in this look,
of this look, that's the other sort of way to dress. It's more like California, like a rich LA person from the mid 2000s.
You can see that kind of like Hollywood star. Yeah, I guess there was an alternative kind of thing, but yeah, just being in Las Vegas. More so than Phoenix, I would even say, because Las Vegas just has that baseline debaucherous kind of attitude. Like, this was just what the standard guy wore. This is what I say, like, that for me, like tucking in my dress shirt and wearing like chambray and Oxfords and stuff was like me rebelling against the standard male in Las Vegas, which was this type of guy. Flat brim baseball caps.
So let's say you showed up to class in the 4th grade. What is everyone wearing?
Oh, in the 4th grade? I can't even...
Well, that would be this time period about.
Oh, I'd be in Germany during this, actually.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, for that. Yeah. Because my time in Sunbelt in this area, like I got 2000 to 03. Very limited memories of that, of course. That's like just mostly Pokemon, I would say, is my memories of that. And then we moved back to Las Vegas in 08. So I kind of missed it.
So technically you missed the McBling era.
Yeah, but being on the military base, like, I could still so see this in kids in school, like because I wasn't in a German school or anything. And also, I'll be honest, because most of my friends were the kids of enlisted people. So like very working class people,
Yeah.
like I was an officer's kid,
Who
but
wanted their kids to dress violent.
yeah, I would say, yeah, that. And it's already like in military guys would dress like this too. It's like, chill, you're already in the military. We know your capacity for violence. You don't need to wear a tap out shirt. Like we're good. But yeah, so I think I saw a lot of like McBling kind of ethos in my friends because like I think there were people like we would get American clothes and stuff, of course, in the base exchange. The BX is like the place you'd buy everything. So yeah, that was like our connection. And I didn't have American TV, but my friends who lived on base did have this like it was like 14 channels, but everyone could watch American Idol. I remember that, and I couldn't, basically, because I had Sky TV, the British TV, so I would watch Top Gear. And also watch American Idol.
Yeah. One more point I want to make on men's McBling. So during this time period, it's interesting to note that like this was when it actually became socially acceptable for men to wear pink. And maybe it was because pink was just so popular in women's fashion that then leaked into menswear. Yeah. But I also think it's something Freudian was probably going on where in order to be a man and wear pink and not get beat up, you had to be extremely masculine. And so it was a bit of a power move.
Yeah, it's like showing how much surplus masculinity you have, that you can like hamstring yourself by wearing pink and still be masculine. I've always kind of saw that with girls who get very short haircuts, kind of masculine haircuts. Like if you are exceedingly feminine and everything else, you can literally chop off your hair and still read as like ultra femme.
Yeah. Do you wear pink, Joseph?
I don't. Yeah, I have a pink striped, like collegiate striped Oxford, but it's very light. Pink. But that's one of those shirts that was never touched a job site. That's just not the vibe.
You know what I just remembered? I didn't even write this in the docket, but you know what people used to say? Like they used to be like, well, somehow it was happening. I mean, it was kind of a miracle this happened at this time period that normal people would be like, oh yeah, it's normal for guys to wear pink now. Like I remember having conversations with people, but you remember what they used to say? They used to be like, oh, it's not pink, it's salmon.
Oh yeah. So that does remind me of the Queer Eye for the straight guy view of kind of, I can just picture them, like the OG Queer Eye guys being like, and now I got you this shirt and you're going to think like, oh, I don't wear pink, but this isn't pink. Actually, this is salmon and it's very in. And everyone's going to
Yeah. I'm so glad I remember that.
No. Did you ever watch original Queer Eye?
Yes, it's better, honestly.
Yeah, because it's not so like cute. I don't know. It's not so feel good. It's a little bit mean, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, back to the basic elements of McBling. We just went through all the brands, but let's go through just like a handful of the tinier sort of elements that were popular in this time period. So the first one is like flip phones. So, they're at peak coolness in this era. The Razr came out in 2004. And I think it's interesting to note that this is also when the first phone accessories started to come out, which weren't phone cases because the phones were still very sturdy. Yeah. Instead, it was like tiny phone charms.
Yeah, they'd have this little integrated loop or whatever that you could thread.
Thing.
Yeah, you could thread the phone charms through it. Yeah, the Motorola Razr was definitely the peak phone during this period. I remember there's like a Razr 1 and a 2, but it's the original one that really stands out to me. It's like wider than the other one, I want to say. And it was just so, to our eyes, impossibly thin, that one part of it.
Yeah.
My mom had one that was like, I remember it was like spun aluminum on the outside of it. Like it had kind of a ring pattern and it was pink. It was like a light pink. Yeah. But yeah, as I said, like my mom was not dressed McBling at all. But she would have that accessory and be like, oh yeah, pink, the girl color.
Yeah. And then the next one is bling. So I feel like bling in this era was almost like a canary in the coal mine for the 2008 recession.
Yeah.
It's like, why revel in false illusions of wealth? Like, why would people be so bacchanalian if not for them sensing deep down that something was about to go wrong?
Like you gotta get everything while you can. Like like the ship is sinking, you gotta have yours.
Yeah, you need to stock up on Ed Hardy before you get off.
Yeah, before everyone dies. Yeah, this is also when watch sizes exploded too. Which I think I've talked about in the past, but like watch sizes were very consistent. From when watches jumped from being pocket watches strapped to your wrist, they were large, but then they sized down pretty instantly. If you handle any watch from the 40s, it's like impossibly small. And I like to wear like 38 millimeter watches, which are on the smaller side. But yeah, this is when fashion watches like Fossil and stuff would emerge, other like mall brands, and then just like the general size of them. And yeah, Rolex has always found a way to sell itself, from the 80s, 90s to now. Like in the 2000s, it was just extremely blinged out Rolexes.
Yeah.
And the spirit survives in watches like Richard Mille. That one. You might have seen you don't drive. There's a big obnoxious billboard for Richard Mille on the highway, but it's just the most gaudy, like I don't know, Saudi Arabia coded type of, like watches.
Makes you feel like you're in Dubai.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, not only, watches were blinged out. Everything kind of was, from phones to calculators.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the show Pimp My Ride was basically just blinging out your car.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was sequins too when it was on clothing. Like it was just a love of things shining, and even digitally too. Like people would deck out their MySpace page with like blinging stuff,
Bling text.
Yeah,
I looked a little hard, maybe not hard enough because I didn't find it. But I once heard about there being this like really interesting article about the creation of bling text and how it came out of like a local rap music scene.
Oh, nice.
I'd love to find it. If anyone does find it, you can email or contact us about it because I want to know about it.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, this part hasn't super gone away. Just look at like any rapper, like NBA player and stuff on red carpets. Like bling is still here. Like I don't know, maybe it's not as ostentatious.
You'll hate me saying this, but it's Lindy now.
Well, because it's been around for 20 years? Well, I mean, like, if we go all the way back to royalty, like, yeah, like having an orb and a scepter, like, that's the original bling. And that's what a lot of this stuff, like, I mean, how many rappers have had themselves, like, in a photo shoot where they're wearing a classic crown? Like, I guess Biggie is the most famous for having that, like, very British-style crown. But, yeah, like, people are always looking to, like, prior forms of wealth, and we'll go all the way back to medieval times if we have to get a good perspective on it.
Yeah. And then the next element is animal prints, and particularly leopard and zebra prints. These were the big ones at the time.
Cheetah, leopard, definitely.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't feel like I've ever met someone who wears animal prints who isn't fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's always a signal that they're vivacious. Like, actually, we went to a dinner last week, and our friend Solana came in a cheetah. No, it's probably leopard print, but a leopard print for a coat. And, like, it just brought so much energy into the room.
Yeah. No, it's great. I'm thinking of, like, man, there's like no conceivable way I could see myself wearing like an animal print in any form. Like, I once owned a cow rug.
Undies.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, where is that from? Cheetah print men's underwear. Is it like in a cartoon? Austin Powers. There you go.
I think.
Yeah,
pretty sure.
I'm picturing Quagmire as well too.
Oh yeah.
No. I think I'm thinking of Boomhauer from King of the Hill. He has like leopard print or something underwear. Oh my God, I dug that out of some fold in my brain.
American Apparel used to have men's baby briefs.
Baby briefs?
Or no, is that what they would call them? But basically they're smaller, not the boxer briefs, but the standard underwear size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I've just never been like, God, I wish my underwear was smaller. Like I've just, I don't know. But I feel like this was also, I'm going back to my memory of watching Sex in the City here, but isn't there a scene? We have not seen Sex in the City.
I have not really.
But this was the height, I believe, of PETA splashing people with red paint for wearing animal fur. But I think that this was also the height of fake fur. So I think that kind of gave everyone cover. Like no one knew who was wearing real fur because everyone was wearing fake stuff. I
mean, I even had a little bit of fake fur at the time because I had this like gray hoodie that had a faux fur lined hood. I don't know. That was just like what the hoodie came with. It was just what people were wearing.
My winter parka came with a faux fur liner and I took it off and I lost it. And Canada Goose has real like fur.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
They trap coyotes. Yeah. I don't know why we haven't figured out like farm raising coyotes. Yeah, it's coyote fur.
I don't know why that was more impactful for me to learn.
No, I don't know. I'm not opposed to vintage furs. I got very close to buying this wool overcoat that was fur lined on the inside. And I don't know, even on the like coldest days in Chicago, like with a standard wool overcoat, I can get myself pretty warm. And so I can't really imagine what situation I need a fur lining for. But I was just agog looking at it. Like, it's like I need this.
Yeah, I could see you wearing fur.
Yeah, only on the inside, not on the outside.
Yeah, you don't want to get assaulted.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the last element, so bleach blonde hair and fake tans.
Yeah, I like talking about this as a blonde man doesn't even matter. Like this is about blonde women. Like other than people frosting their tips in the 2000s, I guess that's a little blonde man kind of reference, I would say. But I mean, since Marilyn Monroe, like, gentlemen prefer blondes, all that stuff, like the blonde has been invented and reinvented. In the 80s, it was a blonde, but with large teased hair.
Yeah.
You know, and then this is the advent of tanning too. Like picture the LA Tan logo like firmly locked in the late 80s, early 90s. But then now it was a very straightened blonde hair, tan skin, Paris Hilton kind of look. And that was just like dominant hot girl look. I don't think until, what's it called? Like Megan Fox did we dig ourselves out of this. And then it's like, oh, we've arrived at a second type of hot girl. This one has dark hair. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know why tanning became popular at this time period, but I forgot to write about this in the docket. But like, so after my mom passed away, you know, there was life insurance. My dad was depressed. He couldn't really take care of us. He got a nanny, which sounds like very out of place for my childhood, but
Interesting.
she was so McBling. She had a tramp stamp. She would go tanning. Her daughter worked in a tanning salon.
Yeah.
She would bleach her hair. And she loved listening to Nelly Furtado. Like that's part of why I like.
That's your origin story. That's your Nelly Furtado origin story.
Yeah, because
what's the album?
I love "Loose" by Nelly Furtado. I don't want to skip pretty much any song, and it's because it reminds me of like her and my childhood.
That's so good. Yeah, I feel like I had figures kind of passing through. Like I just picture like my friends' moms basically would be more like this than my mom was.
Yeah,
we had in Germany. Our house was like it's just a housing type that's not really in America, but it was like we had a shared wall down the side. It was like a townhome of two, is what I'd say. And so we had this family on the other side of it, literally a mirror image of our house. And we kind of saw them as the evil version of us. Because there was a blonde mom, just like my mom, but she was, Miss Ziegler was just the biggest piece of work. And she was just, and then they had a daughter, and we caught their daughter spying on us once. She was like hiding in the bushes, like staring into her kitchen when we were having dinner. And then their son was like a big problem child. And I like came across them on social media again. They seem like wonderful people and all that, but I think this is just made up. There's something about literally like the upside down world kind of thing of someone living in your mirror home next to you. But she was much more like teased hair, you know,
like crimped hair.
Yeah, like crimped hair. She was a little more McBling than my mom, I would say.
Yeah. And you know, and I got another McBling flashback of my childhood nanny. I remember being with her at the beach and her wearing like just such an ostentatious G-string bikini, and then also she had like her belly pierced, and it was like a dangly belly piercing.
Oh my god!
Thank
God you're gay. That would be traumatic for a straight boy to grow up with that nanny. He would not end up well. That should not. All kinds of issues.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of McBling people who were too much. Okay, Paris Hilton. Yeah. All right, so she's like the queen of McBling.
Yeah, she's half the Pinterest board.
Yeah. I found this Vogue article that broke down McBling a bit, and they'd said, you know, if Y2K is the Matrix, McBling is the Simple Life. So The Simple Life is the show that made Paris Hilton famous, although a week before that launched, I think she released her sex tape, which also made her famous. But the plot of it was actually a bit more constructive than a lot of the reality TV shows that came later. Like, you know, Bad Girls Club, The Real Housewives, Jersey Shore. Those were just people hanging out in houses and fighting. There was no plot.
Yeah. There was no higher ambitions. Yeah.
But at least with The Simple Life, the idea was like, okay, these girls are going to move to Altus, Arkansas, and they're going to work low-paying jobs, and they'll build character.
I just don't know. I mean, I really appreciate them being able to like denigrate themselves for this. Like, they're both from money. You know, Paris Hilton famously of the Hilton Hotels
they were like 17
brand.
at the time, though. It's like how...
And just like the show being pitched them, like, so obviously America thinks that you guys are complete spoiled brats and they need to see you improve your character through hard work. Like, there's something so Protestant about this show.
Yeah. I remember having like an elementary school art teacher who once went on a tirade to the classroom about like Paris Hilton and how she was spoiled, and we were all like 10, and it was like, who is this? Yeah. Like, why does this matter?
Oh man, the power you have as a teacher just to be like, you know what really grinds my gears, and go into a tirade.
Yeah. But yeah, have you ever seen anything from The Simple Life?
No, it's I don't know. I don't have a high tolerance for reality TV. I just can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a bit of it because it was uploaded to YouTube while I was in college. And so I was able to watch a few episodes. But fun fact, it was able to bypass YouTube's copyright filters by the videos having only Paris Hilton's voice lowered to an
Yeah.
obscene degree. Like I thought she had like a man voice, like literally.
She sounds like a cartel member being interviewed. Just like,
Yeah, but that's funny because I don't know if you've seen this. I put a link to it in the show notes, but there's this video that circulates on social media. It's from like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, maybe, but or no, maybe it was Paris Hilton's show. I don't know, but literally in a 10-second time phrase, she goes from talking normally to then putting on this like phone sex operator voice. And it's like, it's like not only is her voice not a man's voice, it's like a fake in a hyper feminine way.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. Yeah, the Kardashian voice it's a development out of the like Valley Girl voice that was really under fire at this period. I guess before women were being made fun of for having vocal fry or having NPR voice, as they say, which I also suffer from. But it was women were being made fun of for having a Valley Girl accent and saying like a lot, which is also something I suffer from. So yeah, I'm a real Valley Girl at the end of the day. What
You're
can I
just so
say?
naturally blonde.
I'm a Westerner. I am just a blonde Westerner. I'm a surfer bro, totally.
Yeah.
You ever surfed?
No, but I did snowboard once or twice.
Oh, interesting.
And fell a lot.
I guess that. Yeah, I'm gonna go skiing this year for the first time in probably 6 years, and I'm a little scared of just balance sports in general.
People get serious injuries from
Yeah,
that.
no, my sister is just like noping out of this trip. She's like she's just gonna die, and I'm like, yeah, like Liam Neeson's wife or Michael Schumacher's in a vegetable, and she's like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, no, I still want to go because tons of people do it and don't get injured.
What's the usual thing? You run into a tree?
You run into a tree and just
okay.
Yeah, that's the worst kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll try not to do that.
Yeah. So we would be remiss if we didn't mention the Paris Hilton "Stop Being Poor" meme.
Yes. So it's Paris Hilton standing on a stage wearing a shirt that just says "Stop being poor," and you have the best observation on her arms.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I think this meme is funny because of her shirt, but I think people are also making a subconscious association. Because if you think about the pose she has in the photo with her arms up in this Y shape, the angle of it is eerily similar to when you have a Barbie doll with her arms raised. Not one of the ones that has like, nice articulations where they can bend the elbow, but the standard Barbie doll.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah. A little hand lightly open kind of thing. No, she's perfect. Yeah. She was always like made fun of for being like a real life Barbie, basically. Would she do her hair in that like ponytail kind of way? I'm trying to think. She had a few different looks.
I mean, this is something else about why I thought, Von Dutch is a little bit over celebrated and by Gen Z people with McBling is because women at the time didn't wear hats that much. Like, I guess trucker hats were a thing, but usually women didn't wear hats. It was usually down or in a ponytail.
Yeah. I'm trying to picture the 90s, which I picture largely through Seinfeld, and the early seasons of Frasier. And yeah, you just can't picture Elaine wearing a baseball cap in it.
No, that was not a thing.
Wait, maybe an episode where they go to the Mets game. Digging into I do not have an encyclopedic like Seinfeld knowledge like some Jewish people. But
And one more thing on Paris Hilton. Joseph, have you heard of the bling ring?
I had heard of it. Like it got made into a movie, right? This was the theft ring, like in the Valley in the early 2000s, stealing from people like Paris Hilton.
Yeah, there were 7 teenagers, or maybe they graduated high school, but there were young people that were stealing from the homes of celebrities in the Los Angeles County area. And one of the celebrities they robbed was Paris Hilton, which I learned about from a recent like Netflix documentary, but they stole her clothes, her money, and then also her cocaine.
Oh my God, her precious cocaine.
Yeah, which she publicly denied that she had cocaine in her house.
Of course, you gotta. Like, wait, what are you going to publicly say? I do have cocaine in my house. Yeah. No, yeah, they're like, God, the psyches of these people. Like, it's rough. Like, this is just the end result of this whole cultural kind of craze about celebrity. And it was like, very much cast as that. Like, I think there's of the articles at the time, there's a big tisk tone of just like, how have we done this as a society? We worship our celebrities. But their ultimate score, this ring, what they wanted to do was hit Lindsay Lohan's. I'm surprised they put her above Paris Hilton. In my mind, Paris Hilton is the better indicator of this and of bling and stuff. Lindsay Lohan had a slightly different look, I would think. But yeah, and then one of the ring participants ended up in the same cell block as Lindsay Lohan, actually, because Lindsay was in for drug possession or DUI or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh, she has mugshots, sexy
Yeah.
mugshots.
Oh yeah. Lots of mugshots. Yeah.
Yeah. The Netflix documentary Bling Ring Hollywood Heist. I learned a lot from it because I'd never heard of this before, but they made interesting parallels between how these teens, they were influenced by reality TV, and reality TV actually, like there was this interesting connection where one of the girls of the Bling Ring, she was filming a pilot for her own reality TV show when she got caught. And so the actual the pilot episode for her reality TV show was her getting arrested.
Oh my God, she was so close to actually making it legitimately to becoming
Yeah.
one of her own idols.
She did
But
get a first season. It's called Pretty Wild. I've never watched it, but yeah.
It's about how she's hot and insane.
No, the original
Is that pretty wild? That's like what I'm getting from it.
well, the original premise of the show was it was going to be the Kardashians, but like the hippie version, because it was three girls, and then the mom in the show was one of those. What do you call the secret, the law of attraction?
Oh,
She was one of those people where it was like a little bit spiritual. But yeah, it was supposed to be like
Crunchy
that.
Kardashians.
Yeah.
I'd watch it. I would not watch it. But yeah, so mid 2000s reality TV more broadly, like I heard like, you hear that reality TV has like earlier origins. There was this show in like the 70s or 80s, basically, but that didn't really matter because it didn't cause a crazy boom in the way that we had in the 2000s. That was spurned by a writer's strike, I believe. They didn't have enough writers, so a lot of studios pivoted more to reality stuff. And
I mean, something I learned in art school was the first ever reality TV show was like a public access documentary about the average American family.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, it was like in California.
I think it was the 50s, maybe.
I think one of them came out as gay and was one of the first kind of like gay public figures.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But yeah, there was that, and then the second ever reality TV show was actually this reenactment and retelling of when Ronald Reagan almost got assassinated.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Hinckley. Yeah, he's out. You know that?
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah,
Making music or something.
Yeah, he's a singer songwriter. Yeah, he famously tried to shoot Reagan in order to impress Jodie Foster, who is a lesbian. And then recently, Jodie Foster was like, "Yeah, like when I heard you did it, I was kind of like, wow." Like, no, you can't tell him this. He's gonna do it again. You can't let him know he got success out of that.
Yeah. Reality is so strange. And yeah, so speaking of reality, I feel like something to point out with reality TV in the 2000s was there was kind of a two-way street between reality and reality TV where they were both kind of informing each other in weird ways. Like people were modeling their behavior based off of what they were seeing on these shows, which was bad. I mean, McBling gets called trashy Y2K for a reason. People were getting kind of trashy.
Yeah. No, I mean, like widely, like the tone of articles at this time, like as we like, I guess the later Jersey Shore period, but like Snooki was the butt of every joke.
Yeah.
Like just a safe thing you can always punch down at and be like, oh, what? Who's next? Snooki? Like, so everyone hated these things, but it was having a perceptible like effect on our pop culture.
Yeah. And like, I remember you once commented on another episode of Silent Generation. You said something about how like, you think that the habit of kids in the mid 2000s to talk back to their parents was from reality TV.
Are you sure you didn't say that?
No, you said that.
Okay. I'll take credit. But I remember you talking about how you lived with some family friends for a bit and they were just like rougher around the edges than your family.
Yeah. Not only did I never talk back to my dad as a kid, I never said anything critical, like not even once till I was like, when I was an adult. And not even because I didn't think it would go well, just because I was so respectful.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really like cursing around my parents even when I started cursing. It just felt wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that like this two-way street thing, like it wasn't good for society, I'm sure, but it was entertaining, Like for example, Bad Girls Club.
I've seen clips of that. Yes. I think I used to watch Joel McHale's show on VH1 where he would like clip together reality stuff, and so I'd like that would get some downstream kind of reality thing.
So they show clips from Bad Girls Club on that.
I want to say so, but was that on MTV or VH1?
No, it was on Bad Girls Club was on Oxygen. It was kind of their only big show. Yeah, Oxygen was, I think, Oprah's network.
Yeah, I just like with The Simple Life, I think there has to be at least an illusion of pretense here, like at least a dating game show kind of thing, like that. If some structure of a Bad Girls Club is literally just like we've acquired 10 women with borderline personality disorder and we put them in the same house.
Yeah, the first season actually required these girls to go do community service, but then season 2 to season like 15
Yeah.
was like
We've just disposed with that, like that vestigial thing that we had. Yeah.
yeah.
No, they realized what people were there for.
There literally was no like plot to the show. It was like 7 girls. They would go out and party. 2 cliques would usually form. A few fights would happen. A few girls would get kicked off the show. There's also always a vacation episode, but otherwise there was no plot.
Oh my God.
But yeah,
it's just and it's so boring. Like when you can know and recognize, like it's just alcoholism for a lot. It's just substance abuse disorders. Like I think it's more interesting if they were sober and also insane. I think just raw mental illness, not like because I hate when they kind of juice it up. And I've heard that they've stopped doing this on dating shows. I heard that like on Love Island they can't have more than like 2 drinks. Like the show cuts them off. But this was not the case in the Bad Girls Club. They're going to like public clubs and going out and getting trashed and going home and beating each other up.
No, I feel like the worst or the most entertaining scenes, not worst, the best scenes were always at the house. Like, you know, there's this famous scene where Tanisha from season 2 wakes up all the girls with pots and pans that she's smashing together.
Yes.
But my personal favorite fight of all time is from season 7 with Judy Jai, who is my favorite bad girl. And she did this thing where she threw milk and cereal on a sleeping bad girl. And then it took her 30 minutes.
I'm calling them the bad girls. Like it's not the participants or whatever, like the bad girl. Like.
But the bad girl, it took her 30 minutes to wake up and beat her up. Yeah. But as you can tell, I watched this show a lot as a kid. Not only alone, I watched it with my 4 sisters as a family activity.
Yeah. I should not admit this, but they are hot. Like there is something about just the like unbridled like rage they have. I don't know. That's bad of me. I feel like I might like try and give off this vibe in life and in the podcast of like, oh, I would want an Audrey Hepburn type woman, you know, like someone classy and demure and all that. But like, it's just something about a woman who yells. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think like not only for you, also for me, also for most people. Like, yes, it's nice to have someone who's completely put together, but they're not dynamic. It's fun to be around someone who is like emotive. And yes, sometimes they might scream, but like that's also kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You know? It's not the worst thing you can be is boring.
Yeah. I mean, rarely seen couples where both of them are that way. Like that, like then you get like kind of competing for showtime kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't really like definitely when I was younger, like I'm thinking right when we got to Germany. So like, you know, 08, 09. I was like right when we got back to Las Vegas. My parents were really trying to keep it tamped down with reality TV. They didn't want any of that in there. I remember being at my friend's house and we just watched like I was just blared my eyeballs. It's just pure MTV for like 6 hours. And it was like My Super Sweet 16, Pimp My Ride. Next. I clearly remember Next, the dating show where they get off the bus.
The one where the girl falls off. Did you ever see that
clip? Yeah, but it was just so like overstimulating. I just didn't realize how like buttoned down my little family was. I think especially like being in Germany, being a little bit isolated, like because we didn't live on the military base. I mean, that's an economic thing. Like our friends who were all their military families who were living in the countryside in Germany were all, I think, officers' kids and stuff, basically. So we had this nice little pressure cooker of that for 3 years. And then I was just released into Las Vegas in the Great Recession. Just depravity everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, you know, reality TV, it's kind of gay brain rot. You know?
It is. You got to watch out. That stuff will grab it. It's sports
I'm not
gambling
right now.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not watching it now.
But like what sports gambling does to my people, straight guys, that's what reality TV does to the gay mind.
I mean, I don't even have too many quotes I can pull out of my head from Bad Girls Club, but I used to have more. But yeah, the gay guys with gay brain rot, you know, like all they do all day is make memes, share memes, think about quotes from these female targeted reality TV shows like The Real Housewives. And it's honestly amusing. I mean, with Flop Talk, I see quite a bit of it.
This world you're able to see. And then adjacent to reality TV is like pro wrestling. I am, surprise, anti-MMA. I also think like wrestling is just garbage.
Even if it's kayfabe.
I know it's, of course I know it's fake. You know, like everyone, the guys who love it the most know that it's fake and all that. But like, even if it's written, it should be written better. I've just learned that there's so many characters in WWE. They're just like, they had a character who was just straight up Darth Vader. Basically, like right after that came out, like, oh yeah, put him in there. Like they don't really have a respect for like, they don't really have a respect for intellectual property like other things, or even to pretend to. But I mean, there's just interesting characters in it, not the actual the humans behind it. These roided up guys, like the Von Erich family, which is the subject of the movie The Iron Claw. That was big and in contention.
Do you think they're always on steroids?
Yeah,
they kind of have to be, maybe.
Yeah, it's not as bad as bodybuilding and stuff, but like it's just people want to see the most ridiculous physiques and stuff. And I think there are guys who've hopped between like bodybuilding and WWE, and stuff. And there was actually in the early stages, not the early stages, but when professional bodybuilding was like hitting its golden age with Arnold and stuff in the 70s, there was someone angling to turn it into kind of a WWE type thing where they'd really amp up the rivalries between contestants and like film much more content for it. And luckily that didn't become too big of a thing. Like that's just, there's already wrestling. Is there too much of an appetite for that? I guess there's multiple wrestling leagues and stuff. My only exposure to wrestling was honestly like, we watched a lot of USA Network as a kid. I don't know why our family was we loved, I think House.
Wait, what is USA Network?
USA Network was, it had shows like Monk, Burn Notice, Psych. Their thing was Characters Welcome, and their programming was just broadly more like quirky character focused. It would be procedurals with a twist, basically.
It's wild there was a whole channel for that.
Yeah, looking back on it, it's kind of high-minded when you think about it. Like, oh, our difference, like we prioritize our characters in our writing. Like that's just crazy. When like I think the other networks are just indistinguishable. They're just like, yeah, we have this cop show, and the other network has the other cop show. But USA, as part of their, I guess, to also fill out the block, is they would have wrestling on there. But I was always so annoyed. I wanted to watch Burn Notice, and they would just have WWE Raw or whatever. I don't even know what any of the words mean. But in this period in the 2000s, I guess actually it started kind of in the 90s. But this was the Attitude Era, where usually I'm going to sound like I know a lot about wrestling here for someone who hates it, but you can read this on like Wikipedia page. Like this is not hard stuff to find. Yeah. But a face is a good guy and a heel is a bad guy. In the Attitude Era, really brought the faces into a kind of anti-hero status and brought them a lot closer to heels. And I guess Stone Cold Steve Austin was
the Suck It era, right?
Of people like
the ex
crotch. I'm trying to who did do that?
Our friend Patrick.
Well, yeah, but who was actually famous for the crotch chop? I'm trying to think. I don't think that was Steve Austin. I don't think that was Stone Cold Steve. I just know he would do the Stone Cold Stunner. I know there's a song by Bones called that, but it just feels like they took the one classy thing out of wrestling, because it used to be that a face would be like, just a good old boy kind of thing. You wouldn't have any crazy themes to him or anything. You'd care about his family and his, pride and winning, and you wouldn't do any underhanded stuff. And that was like the one shining thing in pro wrestling, and they got rid of that too. Like now and it also became more, it was more cursing, more sexual too. Yeah, and they want to do more blurring of the kayfabe of what's real, what's not. So you get those scenes of guys in like cinder block, like back alleys, I guess, of the WWE, and hitting each other with chairs and stuff. I don't know. The kids I knew who were so into that, like I'd go over to a friend's house and be like, let's play Mario Kart. And they'd be like, no, let's play WWE. And then we'd waddle around as The Rock or whatever. Like, and it was like, this game is not as fun, and this is just not appealing to me. I want to see like bright colors and stuff. I want to play Ty the Tasmanian Tiger.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember much. I mean, I never was into WWE or WWF. But the one thing I can remember from my childhood with kids liking it was when they'd roll their eyes back and then they'd be like, I'm the Undertaker.
Let me tell you, Rey Mysterio was huge in Las Vegas for Mexican kids. Like it was like, I'm Rey Mysterio. And they like jump off the bench in the locker room or something.
Yeah. But I encountered this term, the Attitude Era, from a recent like YouTube video essay called The Y2K Attitude Era, a Cultural Middle Finger. And it's really good. It doesn't fit into McBling too clearly, but I think, of girls from this time, they were edgy in a less vicious way. Boys in this time were edgy in like an anti-authority way. I mean, particularly the media that was marketed to them. Yeah.
Like, I can just picture, I guess it's a little bit of older brother core, but I can picture the kind of kid that I'm talking about who would like want to play the WWE game and have a shirt of WWE stuff. And he's got a shaved head for some reason. He smells kind of weird. And like he's wearing all black. And I don't know. Yeah, this was a middle finger type.
Junkie coded.
Yeah. jazzed, so excited when he's old enough to drink energy drinks.
Yeah. Okay. So new McBling media and fashion. This is the next section. So before doing this week's episode, I didn't realize this, but the story of McBling doesn't really end with the Facebook group. Like according to Google Trends, McBling pinked a month ago in September, which is kind of wild. I didn't realize it was surging because like, yes, I've seen TikToks of Gen Z women who are dressed very Y2K, or not Y2K, but McBling. You know, like there's this account I follow called Bronze Up Brat, and she has this video called like, how do you stay so authentically 2000s? I'll put it in the show notes. But that's a really good example. And it's like, she is
On it.
McBling to a T. Like, you know, she says in that video that like she only references original source material from the 2000s. She only wears pieces that were made from that era. But even more than that, I'm impressed with like her wardrobe or her mannerisms and her like the way her body moves is actually like, it feels like I'm watching reality TV from the 2000s.
Yeah, she's not using any like super recent jargon and stuff that I feel like everyone on TikTok is like, you know, full of that stuff. But yeah, she kind of approaches it with this rigor and seriousness that I see in people in the period menswear world. Where I say I'm more interested in like classic menswear, which to me is, you know, like 1960s onward, like stuff that doesn't stand out too much. There's a whole world of guys who are out there in like heavy pleated wool suspenders, like, you know, like really cartoonishly 1920s or 30s. And they like, I don't know, kind of like that review of the week guy. You know him? Who does the food reviews?
I don't actually know him.
Oh, no. He's the guy who looks kind of like Lord.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know him? Yeah, Review Bra, as he's also called. He's like in that world as well. And her seriousness and her like getting it right and respect for period is just like those guys. But she's doing it for 10 years ago. Or it's longer than 10 years ago. What am I saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like as exotic as say like the way Boxy moved in like a 4chan way. Like I'm gonna put a link to that in the show notes too, because that is just like such a bizarre time capsule.
That's so bizarre because that's just clearly someone in their room, like alone, a subculture of one kind of thing. Like, or I think her relationship is with her MacBook camera, like with the photo booth camera,
and with the people harassing her online.
Yeah.
Exactly. She didn't even have fans. She just had people who were like trying to dox her and ruin her life, I think.
No.
But yeah, Bronze Up Brat, really cool. And then another example of how like McBling is having a new life right now is the McBling subreddit. Because, you know, I looked at all their top posts. I like to do that with the things we research, but they're all from the last year. So this is really picking up.
Yeah. I was in a very basic club last night. Very poor idea. But I was seeing Y2K-ness like throughout there. Yeah.
Like what?
I don't know. Just like everything's low rise. Like just a lot of stuff that's been broadly Gen Z for a bit. But I don't know. Yeah. There was just a lot of baggy, ripped pants, like then tight top, that kind of contrast.
Yeah.
Very Y2K. Some like video vixen looks. I swear there's a girl with the fluffy hat. With that kind of, I think I remember that. I don't know. It was all a blur.
Yeah. And then another example of like McBling having a life beyond the Facebook group is actually McBling Music. So there are 3 musicians I can think of as examples of this, but I only pieced together that like, oh, they're McBling because I found the Trashing McBling Spotify playlist, which I'll link. But yeah, it has Aisha Erotica, Kim Petras, Slater. All of them happen to be trans women. Although I don't know how I missed this, but Kim Petras is trans too.
Yeah.
I don't know how I slipped that up, but
she transitioned super early. She was almost, unless I'm confusing her with someone else. I think she was like kind of famous for transitioning that early in Germany. Yeah. Basically like as a news item and then later became a pop item, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, I like the music it's pretty good, but I found one song, NG Sunk by Aisha Erotica, that sounds a lot like the Electroclash song, Do I Look Like a Slut by Avenue D. Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do. I don't remember too much like individual Electroclash songs, but definitely that one stands out.
Yeah, because it was in the documentary, and Avenue D, they were wearing literally like bread bags as shirts and dancing on stage to it.
You know, there is Electroclash McBling kind of overlap here, like their timelines. Like as we talked about, Electroclash somehow culturally survived 9/11 despite being in New York, like centered in New York and of that time.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think Electroclash was 2000 to 2005. So these were around the same time. And so I think both McBling and Electroclash, they're both manifestations of the same sort of horny zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Like there's a hedonism
Brash,
to both of
rude,
them.
hedonist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely Electroclash has more of that futurist bent that's
Yeah.
missing from McBling. McBling is not imagining a crazy future or like really pining for a distant past. It's hyper contemporary. It's just saying like, yeah, it's modern times and we just have more money. Like it's just more. It's not forward or backwards.
Yeah, it's more like people were trying to be normal, you know. It wasn't like people were trying to be that different.
Yeah, it was before the ultification of the normies.
Yep.
As they say.
Yeah.
Which again sounds like a historical event. The defenestration of Prague, the ultification of the normies is how I sort those in my mind. Do you know what the defenestration of Prague was?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's where they chucked the people out the windows and all that.
Ironic is the Czech Republic is barely religious now.
Yeah, so irreligious because they chucked everyone out of the windows. Yeah. All right. Other random kind of grab bag Y2K stuff. So my friend David, not David from the episode, but my good friend David from school, he's a car guy. He's been, from the second he's been conscious, he has loved cars, and especially in the kind of import tuner scene and stuff. So Fast and Furious, big for him then. And this was of that time. Like Fast and Furious came out in 2001. Pimp My Ride was on from 04 to 07. Need for Speed Underground, the series had been alive ahead of that, but that Underground focused on like Japanese cars tricked out with neon and nitrous and all that stuff. So this was all happening in that period. But kind of separate from that is types of cars that car guys online call '04 rich. And so this is Y2K bling, like as translated into the car world. And what it's exemplified most is the Hummer. So the actual H1 Hummer was legitimately the military vehicle, like for civilian and like road use and off-road use.
I think Paris Hilton had one.
Yeah, like the first people actually had those, but then the ones that you more often actually saw were the H2 Hummers. And so what that was just a like SUV / truck body that was gussied up to look evocative of the Hummer. And then later, the H3 was based on like the next smaller chassis down from that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I thought they would have just continued to get larger and larger ahead of the crash. You know, like kind of pushing where they're getting, but maybe there was something that GM knew. You know, I mean, they knew their books weren't good. Like they knew that the automobile, like that they were going to have to get bailed out soon. So I think that it's kind of like, I don't know, in lean times, how animals will get like thinner, you know, and then like generation over generation, they're like, there's island gigantism, and there's also like cold weather, like shrinking or something where animals become small. But yeah, so I think it was leaner and leaner times that produced the Hummer H3. But yeah, it was just so indicative of America's like relentless military presence at the time that we wanted to take a little bit of it home, like as a doggy bag treat. Like if we're going to, have all these wars abroad, we might as well be able to bring a military vehicle into the 4-car garage. Yeah,
that's something that it was definitely present in McBling that's a little bit harder to thread into the narrative was the patriotism. Because there was patriotic fashion, like camo was a bit of a thing and American flags.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it doesn't really fit into like the luxury aesthetics. It just happened to be that there was this like world-changing event that happened before McBling was a thing.
Yeah. The other '04 rich cars are, so it's like kind of expressly not Japanese import cars, but rather European exotics. So any Lamborghini, Ferrari. If it's a Lamborghini, it's probably yellow. If it's a Ferrari, it's red. Like these things are just codified. And then also the Rolls-Royce Phantom, it had not been a model of car until they resuscitated it in '04. I think I wrote it down somewhere. Yeah. Oh no, the Phantom was relaunched in 2003. Yeah. And that was just the ultimate. I remember I had this assignment where I had to show myself spending $1 million. Like in math class, I had to like plan this out if I had to do it.
That's fun.
Yeah, to make it less work for myself, I just bought a Ferrari and a Rolls Royce, basically, and that chewed up like $600,000 at that time. And then it was just easier to do the rest of it. I think also honorable mention goes to the Cadillac XLR. So this was a Corvette, but then they gussied it up with like Cadillac styling. And there was I want to say Avon saleswoman, like the makeup brand. Or she was a real estate agent. I forget. But there's a woman who was known for her pink, bubblegum pink XLR. And I remember seeing it in like 2014 and being like, damn, this thing is outside of its time. Like this is like almost garish nowadays.
I mean, I think it was a thing where if you worked for Maybelline and were one of their top salespeople, they'd give you a pink Cadillac.
Oh yeah, so that's what it was. Yeah, it was Maybelline, not whatever I said. But yeah, it's interesting. Like when a car is reliable enough that it kind of outlives its time. Like the Pikachu VW Beetles. Have you seen
No,
those?
but I want to see it.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very 2000s thing. It's when they brought back the Beetle in the 2000s. They had one for Pokemon the movie 2000 that was like had a tail and it was Pikachu, and like people discover them every so often. They're pretty rare.
Like they sold them to consumers.
Yeah, yeah, it was like some kind of award. It was like you won it in a contest. I want to say,
okay.
but it's just I don't know. As someone who drives a very like solemn black car, I like it's such a rare use case. But I like that I could drive that car up to a wedding. Sorry, no, to a wedding or a funeral. It'd be respectful. And there's just something about pulling up to a funeral in the Pikachu VW Bug. It's just like, oh, sorry, I'm late. Yeah, no, I got stuck in traffic, but we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually on the Rolls Royce thing. My aunt worked for a Four Seasons hotel, and we got to stay at one in California, and the pool was under construction, so they ferried us over in a Rolls Royce Phantom to the sister hotel that had its pool open, and it was the most O4 rich, the most McBling I've ever felt. It was being a child in my like swim shorts, my flip flops. I was a rash guard child, of course. I was one of those weaker sorts. Kind of, would be wearing like an Under Armour or a body glove or whatever that brand was, like swim shirt, and my little like goggles strapped to my forehead, like in a Rolls Royce Phantom.
Very Trump coated.
Yeah. When I was wearing a suit out last night, everyone was telling me I look like Barron Trump. I gotta redo my look now.
Did you see the meme that came out about him this week?
No.
It's of him being interviewed as a kid, and he talks about how he likes his suitcase because he had to bring a suitcase to school instead of a backpack.
There's videos of him talking. I was trying to find a video of him talking.
That's the first and last one, it seems like.
Doesn't he have a Slovenian accent?
Yeah, it's weird.
That's so messed up. He's literally like, his vibe is that of like a, I don't know, of the marriages that used to happen where like, a wife would just get married off from some far off thing and she wouldn't even speak the language of her husband. And then like she'd have a child, and at least that one child was her one solace, It's very Joffrey Baratheon coded, I guess. Not to bring back a dead Game of Thrones reference.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry, I didn't have too much to add on cars, but now we can talk about McMansions.
Yeah, so I think this is like equally as important because I think one of the best McBling like scenes that's been put to film is in Mean Girls. Amy Poehler's character in that house, like this giant sprawling mansion.
Yeah.
Mean Girls is based on Winnetka, Illinois, and so I feel like the house is not. They shot the movie in California though, right? Didn't they?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I've never liked Mean Girls as much as other people because the characters learn lessons. Unlike reality TV, I'd rather just be trashy beginning to end.
Yeah, you don't want the moralizing. You
don't want it.
I kind of like the old school. Like, it reminds me of like we talked about this in the movie theaters episode, but like with the Hays Code, like if you had a bad character, they had to be punished at the end of it. Like they had to be like put on trial, and you weren't really allowed to have anti-heroes or anything. I think it's kind of Lindy in that way.
I wish it ended strong with like Lindsay Lohan throwing a tantrum,
being the meanest girl. But yeah, so McMansions, as we spoke on earlier, this very like garish, ostentatious, overblown housing type that's just balloons and square footage. And it's outside the tradition of like how moneyed areas were developed originally, because any downtown area would have a millionaire's row or whatever. It was just these old, beautiful houses, very high property taxes, very policed facades, and then very close to the, like usually pretty downtown, like not right next to the offices, but a short commute away. And then McMansions were a wholly different development. This was just, is people who maybe couldn't afford to be somewhere actually rich would just strike out and go buy an outer ring suburb. When I picture McMansions in a Chicago context, I picture Barrington, Illinois.
Yeah. I've never been there.
No, you're not missing out. But yeah, like it can be kind of an ex-urban thing. Yeah. But these, I definitely saw some real, I had one for like a proper mansion. I'm just going to randomly put him to dox him, but I remember his name was Corey Pitt, which I thought was a funny name because apples have cores and like peaches have pits. Like, I don't know, Corey Pitt. Like, it'd be cool if he was, but they had like columns, and I remember their house was just like a big square, and there was like a balcony wrapped around it. Like, it kind of felt like the Grand Budapest Hotel, like type of foyer atrium thing. And then I mean, I had Jewish friends who were rich, but I don't think Jews went for McMansions as much. Not that we
No,
have
it was
like,
more Protestant.
yeah, not that we have better taste or anything. Like, no, like when I was back in Las Vegas, like definitely people lived in McMansion-esque kind of things. But I think when Jews go luxury, we go a little more modern. I think I've said something to this effect, but like when societies, countries, or governments start erecting Roman columns, they don't then start being nicer to Jews. That's never the next step there. Like, so we always have a kind of skepticism of any kind of neoclassical movement in architecture.
You don't. You love Greek stuff.
I do love Greek stuff. I I am a classicist. I think it's fun for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't aware of this term, but you could say that McMansions are actually a subset of what's called neo-eclectic architecture. And this is like the most useful word I've seen. Like, this is the Sun Belt stucco box. It does have fake shutters on it. You know, it's not super modern. It has like a gabled roof. It has like just enough traditional for people, but it's not like, you know, super modern. It's not like going for a specific style. Like, this is a colonial, this is a Italianate. It's not going for any of that. It's just like a grab bag of little like creature comforts of home ornamentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is what McBling people will be living, I think, in these kind of environments, you know?
Yeah. I mean, do you think though that like a McBling woman decked out in pink would be living in one of these? I feel like the women who would live in McMansions would have a slightly different aesthetic.
Well, I think that is the ones who would go.
The daughters would actually. Okay, never mind.
I'm just trying to picture that house from Mean Girls. Like, it was just a grab bag,
Yeah, 'cause-
kind of vaguely Tuscan. I'm picturing mom in pink sweatsuit, beige house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just warm toned house, and then she just stands out like a Barbie doll.
I've never been in a McMansion, so it's hard for me to picture
Yeah.
like what these places are like and what the vibes are like. It's purely off of meme accounts. Like, what's the one that you found? The meme account,
McMansion hell.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even, I call her a researcher. I would say she's so rigorous about it, but she takes photos of McMansions and she annotates them and she picks out like all the befuddling, confusing parts about it. So the mismatched windows, like really just a home should only have like a few types of windows, window typologies. And then McMansions just have whatever. And as I've said, like they're kind of designed from the inside out. I want this room here, this room there. And then the roof just has to get figured out on the back end of it. Where older houses are designed kind of from the envelope in, where it's a Cape Cod house, so like has its little house shaped like pitched roof. And then you just kind of figure out your bedroom layout after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got to give a mention to honey oak cabinets here. That's that is, if you look them up, you'll often see your search followed by like, how to get rid of honey oak cabinets, painting honey oak cabinets. But this was part of a general kind of warm toned like arc that we were in.
Yeah.
Because we're emerging from a cool toned arc right now. People are going warmer, but definitely in McBling, people wanted like beige carpets. They wanted honey oak cabinets. They wanted granite countertops.
That's the sort of wood that looks almost yellow. Right?
Yeah, it's very yellow.
It's like a blonde
it's the honey
wood
part of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
But it's not like a bleached wood that become more liked in Scandinavian later. It's not that. I was gonna say that Tony Soprano's house is a little McBling, but it's not. It is like it has this light bleached wood that was a very 80s 90s thing, and he has green laminate countertops. So it's just like one step off. Also on like countertops and kitchens and stuff, this is really the rise of like the kitchen island. You know? Like,
Oh, yeah.
I always like that meme of like that was it that first Thanksgiving back from college and your friends are posting videos and you can figure out how rich they are by their kitchen islands. But yeah, this is also a period. I mean, this just seems like the writing on the wall for the recession, but a big thing was 42-inch countertops. Countertops are usually 36 inches, but people didn't get randomly taller during like the 2000s, but it was just a thing of like, oh, it just really feels grand and imposing. Yeah. And then we can talk a little bit about the Tuscan rustic, because that was a big thing.
Yeah, that's an entirely different aesthetic that I'm sure you can find in the aesthetics wiki and Kari.
But it was like, if clothes were hyper contemporary, I think there was a little looking backwards to like the riches of Europe and stuff. And it's one thing when it's in California, which has, you know, like a semi-Mediterranean climate, like analog. But having a Tuscan home in like a suburb outside of Cleveland is just so sad to me. It's like, who are you kidding? I mean, yes, granted, like the most beautiful old homes in Chicago are literally like Italianate or like, but it's just done better. It's all about execution. I mean, there's even a lot of hotels in the 20s in Chicago are actually like Venetian revival, which is interesting. They have these like spiraled up balustrades and columns and stuff, which is just funny when they're covered in snow because it's just not what it was meant to be. But yeah, this was.
I mean, I'm a fan of the TikToks where they're about these kitchens. Like I've seen them plenty of times. I wonder how much of this though was just people going to Olive Garden and being like, I want to be around this all the time.
Yeah, I want to bring the family feeling and the joy home with me that I get at Olive Garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. You feel like anything else to add?
No, I feel like we're pretty rounded out on McBling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. On Tuscan Rustic, we can end on McBling. But yeah, thank you for listening to this week's episode. Again, you should become a patron before we raise the price. Also, like our podcast is doing pretty good. We're happy with where it's at, but we'd also like to grow. So if you have any episodes that you can think of friends that they might be into them, like please go ahead and share them. And we thank you again for listening.
Yeah.
Bye everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.